I call on Government Order of the Day number 3.
Education and Training Amendment Bill number 2.
Mr Speaker, I present a legislative statement on the Education and Training Amendment Bill number 2.
That legislative statement is published under the authority of the House and can be found on the Parliament website.
I move that the Education and Training Amendment Bill number 2 be read a third time. Mr Speaker, this bill represents another meaningful step towards strengthening New Zealand's education system. It introduces a range of legislative changes designed to advance the government's key priorities and improve outcomes for learners. Among its proposals, the bill requires schools to place students' educational achievement at the centre of their decision-making, provides schools and families with more time to respond to planned union strike action, and ensures that initial teacher education and teacher discipline and competence processes are fit for purpose. It introduces new requirements for schools to have attendance management plans and mandates that universities uphold freedom of expression for students and staff. Changes include further measures to support a high-performing, equitable education system. My colleagues, Minister Seymour and Reti, will speak to those proposals shortly. The changes in this bill, Mr Speaker, are vital to advancing our goals to raise student achievement and attendance, prepare our future-ready workforce, and build a knowledge-rich curriculum grounded in the science of learning. One of the key proposals in this bill relates to changes to Section 127 of the Education and Training Act. As the Minister for Education has previously raised, this government is relentlessly focused on lifting student achievement and closing the equity gap so that every learner gains the skills they need to thrive. Section 127 sets out the range of objectives that school boards must deliver. This bill amends the section to make educational achievement the paramount objective for all school boards. This means that boards must treat educational achievement as their highest priority when making decisions. To achieve this, boards must also meet a range of essential supporting objectives, including a new focus on student attendance and good quality assessment, as well as other existing obligations around safe and inclusive school environments. During the Committee of the Whole House, the Minister for Education introduced an amendment paper that made further changes to Section 127. This proposal responded to the Government's Treaty Reference Review, which was part of the National New Zealand First Coalition Agreement to a review of all legislative references relating to the principles of the Treaty of Waitangi. Currently, Section 127 requires schools to carry out a legal duty to give effect to the treaty. However, questions were raised during this review about whether it was appropriate.
Can I ask members to not talk across the chamber because we're trying to listen to the Minister? Continue,
Thank you.
Please.
Whether it was appropriate for boards who are made up of parents and volunteers to be held accountable for meeting the Crown's treaty obligations. This government considers that it is unreasonable to expect elected parents who volunteer their time to discharge the Crown's legal responsibilities in respect of the treaty. Instead, the government believes that it is the Crown's responsibilities to support Māori educational success, and we currently do this in education through a range of different initiatives. Wait and I'll tell you. Plans and programs including the Māori Education Action Plan, which sets clear goals for delivering better outcomes in the classroom for Māori students and focuses on delivering a knowledge-rich curriculum using evidence-based teaching methods in Te Reo Matatini and Paunga. The curriculum refresh, which makes changes to the national curriculum, includes Te Māoratanga o Aotearoa and includes a more knowledge-rich approach to teaching and learning and includes more concepts drawn from Te Ao Māori than previous curricula covering history, language and culture. Further budget 2025 investments, including the allocation of over 100 million to lift Māori education achievement through things like new curriculum resources into Reo Māori and investing in safe, warm and dry classrooms for kaupapa Māori and Māori medium kura. We are already seeing indications of progress from this work. When phonics was first introduced, only 25% of Māori 5-year-olds were meeting expectations. That figure has now risen to 43%, and the number needing reading support has dropped from 62% to 47%. The bill replaces the provisions on how schools are required to give effect to the treaty with new supporting objectives that all boards must give effect to meet their paramount objective of educational achievement. These new objectives require boards to seek to achieve equitable outcomes for Māori students, take all reasonable steps to provide for students to be taught and to learn in Te Reo Māori on request of their parents or immediate caregivers, and takes reasonable steps to ensure that the policies and practices for the school reflect New Zealand's cultural diversity. This change continues to maintain the need for boards to seek to achieve equitable outcomes for Māori students. However, it also reflects the reality that while some families may consider teaching in Te Reo Māori important to their children's education, this change provides choice so that they can enable their children to be educated in line with their child or family's aspirations. Overall, we consider that these new changes will help focus boards on delivering equitable and excellent educational outcomes for all New Zealand students through clarifying expectations. Alongside the changes to school board objectives, the bill also removes the ability for a Minister of Education to issue a Statement of National Education and Learning Priorities, NALPs. This tool was originally introduced to give schools greater strategic direction. However, the updated school board objectives, together with curriculum statements and frameworks, provide stronger, clearer directions, setting clear requirements to help guide schools more effectively. Again, the Minister for Education does not want schools to be overburdened or distracted from educational achievement by streamlining boards' obligations and removing the NALP. Schools will have a clear, simple framework with achievement at the forefront. We know that schools will need some time to give effect to these changes, and that is why the committee have agreed to amend the date at which the school board's next strategic plan takes effect from 1 January 2026 to 1 January 2027. This will provide for boards to prepare for and make changes to their strategic plan in 2026 and consult with their communities. Another key change proposed in this bill is increasing the amount of days notice that unions must provide before they strike from 3 days to no less than 7 days. We recognise and respect the rights of unions to strike. It is a fundamental part of our democratic framework. However, schools and parents need adequate time to prepare for the disruption that strike action can cause. This includes determining whether they remain open, and if so, arranging provision for supervision. Parents, caregivers and whānau deserve sufficient time to make alternative arrangements should their children school decide to close. Every learning day matters, and this change continues to preserve the rights of union to strike, but we believe that is a practical and fair adjustment that supports our students, respects our educators and strengthens our system overall. As mentioned in the Minister's second reading, teachers have a significant influence on the educational success of all learners. In particular, the quality of teaching is a critical factor that influences enhances educational outcomes. This bill makes amendment to strengthen initial teacher education through greater government involvement in standards for teacher registration and practicing certificates and approvals of initial education programs. The Minister wishes to pass on her thanks to colleagues who have given consideration to this bill, and we commend the bill to the House.
The question is that the motion be agreed to. The Honourable Woolajin Prime.
Tēnā koe te māngai o te whare. Did that member across there just say, oh God, as oh right. What a start, the Deputy Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, this bill is an absolute travesty. Travesty. Mr. Speaker, we do not commend this bill to the House.
Mr. Speaker.
Dr. Lawrence Sunan.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This is a despicable bill by a despicable government. The Green Party will not be supporting this. Ka whawhai tōna mātou, ake, ake, ake.
Dr. Panjit Palmer.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm very pleased to take this call to support this bill on behalf of the ACT Party. This is a great bill from a great government, and I really want to commend the Honourable David Seymour for his work that is part of this bill. And as the previous member who just sat down said that their commitment is towards unions, our commitment is to parents and students. So their commitment is confined only to unions, not to students and not to parents, but on this side we are committed to saying what is best for students and what is best for parents. We have been hearing from parents and we have been taking their interest on board in making sure that this legislation goes through this House in the best possible version. Mr. Speaker, we are really pleased to see the changes that have been made to this legislation in the Committee of the Whole House. And I heard members on that side saying that the Committee of Whole House was not the appropriate process. They had so many amendment papers, Mr. Speaker, and even if like one amendment paper of theirs had gone through, I asked them, would they have said the same thing, that that process was not the right process? No, they would not have, because this is the process that we adopted, and it was in the Committee of the Whole House. We made the changes on the basis of the feedback that we were getting when the bill was reported back from the Select Committee. So, Mr. Speaker, I don't understand what those members were saying about the Committee of the Whole House, because that is the process. And I can't remember how many amendment papers. I think it was close to 130 or something like that, amendment papers. And they were fighting to make changes in the Committee of the Whole House. And now they're saying, why did you make changes in the Committee of the Whole House to this bill? So, Mr. Speaker, really pleased to see the changes that have been made to this bill in the Committee of the Whole House, because the objectives of the school boards are not to give effect to Treaty of Waitangi. That is just a distraction. It's just shifting their attention to something that is not measurable. We want to see that school boards are able to deliver in the best interest of students. We want to see that they are focused on improving numeracy, they are focused on improving literacy, they are focused on improving attendance, and focused on improving engagement. These are the kind of things that parents have been asking to see that school boards deliver, and that is what we are delivering. School boards are not entities that are there for any kind of cultural or political kind of motivation in these institutions. Their job, they are governance bodies in educational institutes. So we want to see that they are focused on delivering best educational outcomes for all students, irrespective of their racial background, whether they are Maori, Pacifica, Chinese, Indian, or any racial background. And to say that, yeah, this is going to have negative impact of Maori students, Mr. Speaker, that is just rubbish. Why I say this? Because till now that was happening and we haven't seen that making any difference to Maori students. I do accept, Mr. Speaker, that yes, there will be some students, those who will lag behind. Not every student can learn at the same pace. So what we need to do is we need to focus on those students on the basis of their need. Race has nothing to do with that. And giving effect to Treaty of Waitangi is not going to help anybody. It's just waste of resources. And so I'm very pleased to see that in the Committee of the Whole House we managed to make this change. In the second reading speech, Mr. Speaker, I said that this was going to be removed as part of the wider treaty clauses review, or even before that. So really pleased that it's happened before that, so schools get more certainty, parents get more certainty, and students actually know that they have to focus on numeracy, literacy, and they have to focus on learning the subjects they are going to give them the skills to succeed in the real world. And Mr. Speaker, talking about attendance, yes, attendance management plans in schools are really important. We saw that attendance in schools dropped under the previous Labour government, and we have been working really, really hard. Again, I want to commend the Honourable David Seymour for his work, and we are seeing that the attendance data is looking better and better day by day. And this will happen only when students see that they have value when they go to school. If we are not providing value to students, they're not going to turn up to school if we are just wasting their time. And even parents will think that sending their children to school is just waste of their time. We want to see that schools are able to provide real value to students, so that parents also think that, yes, my child should be in school. That is what we are doing. And in this legislation, Mr. Speaker, we are ensuring that schools will have attendance management plan. And of course, I understand that there can be so many different reasons why students don't turn up to school. And that's why we are saying in that the school should respond to the underlying reasons as well for students being absent, because that will give us a really good picture of what is happening in different schools. Now, Mr. Speaker, finally, I want to talk about freedom of expression in universities. So yes, we start from school. In school, the schools, children learn about the skills that are needed to succeed in the world. In university, they learn those skills, but they also want the exposure to the wider world. And what is happening at the moment is we are restricting that kind of exposure for students. We want to empower students. We want to protect those students, those who want to bring different kinds of speakers, those who want to express different views on campuses. They should be able to do that. Under the previous Labour government, open debate was under threat. Open debate was under threat under the previous Labour government, and we want to see that open debate is protected. We want to see that people are able to hear different kind of views, and they are able to make up their own mind. If they want to accept those views, agree with those views, disagree with those views, students should be able to do that when they are in university. That is that age when they should be able to develop that kind of thinking process, and we want to see that that is happening. And I'm really pleased to see that in this legislation, universities will be required to develop and commit to a policy of freedom of expression. And also there will be a complaints process which will make this whole thing really transparent. So a really good bill, very pleased to support and commend this bill to the House. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Andy Foster.
Listening to the opposition speeches, which seemed like a defence of the current education system, you kind of think that from the opposition point of view, everything is working really, really well. Willajim Prime said that this bill is a travesty. To me, that is defending the indefensible, because at the moment, the travesty actually is that our education system has been failing our young people for a very long time, and it's getting worse. The level of attendance is really, really poor, and we are starting to see that beginning to come back up again with a lot of hard work, particularly from the ministers in this government. We're seeing also the levels of achievement in some of those core skills, the ability to read, to write, to be numerate. Those kind of skills had got to a level which we should be collectively ashamed of, and yet the opposition seem to be defending that. That, to me, is defending the indefensible. And look, if you don't believe what I'm saying there, just look at what the RIS statement says. While there is much good practice and achievement in the New Zealand education system, educational achievement data shows significant gaps and variability in educational achievement of New Zealand students. The 2022 results of the OECD's Programme for International Student Assessment, PISA, examinations continue the trend of worsening overall performance of New Zealand students and large equity gaps. That has nothing to do with Te Tiriti, but what that does have to do, I'll come back to that. It does have a little bit to do with Te Tiriti, but what it does say is we have a problem in our education system. That problem is that our students, I don't know what these people are yelling and screaming about, Mr. Speaker, but what that says is that our education system is failing our students. And what this bill does is it quite rightly says that is not acceptable, and it says instead of a confused mess of several equal and competing objectives in the education system, instead we are going to say that there is a primary objective in the education system, a paramount objective, and then there are a number of supporting objectives. And that seems reasonable, doesn't it? Doesn't it seem like common sense, Mr. Speaker, to say that a school board's paramount objective in governing a school is to ensure that every student at the school is able to attain their highest possible standard in educational achievement? Does that sound like a terrible thing? It sounds like a very, very good thing to me, because what's quite clear is that at the moment that has not been happening, and that this bill is about saying that is front and centre. There are a whole bunch of supporting objectives, but that is front and centre. That is the most important objective of our school system, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, in terms of Te Tiriti, I think there was a point, I think it was a question and a bit of interchange that happened during question time, and it was about what does this bill do in terms of giving effect to Te Tiriti? Well, it actually gives one very, very practical thing, because it says what it says is it seeks to achieve equitable outcomes for Maori students. And we know that Maori students generally are performing much worse than students as a whole. And so to lift that, Mr. Speaker, surely has to be a good thing. And it is not an amorphous objective about Te Tiriti. It is saying very concretely, we want to lift the performance of those students, in this case Maori students, who are not performing at the level that they need to. None of our students, across the board, our students are not performing at the level they need to. That is particularly true of some sectors of society. The Maori students, those people from lower socioeconomic areas are performing particularly poorly, and they need to be lifted up. Because what we do not want, we don't want just to have some really high performers up here, Mr. Speaker, and then a big tail of people who are not able to cope in the education system. That is not setting those people up to be citizens of the world, citizens of this country. Mr. Speaker, the next part of this bill is about ensuring that we have schools have attendance management regimes. Again, that makes sense. How can you learn if you're not actually at school? And this government has put a lot of focus there, and the Honourable David Seymour has put a lot of focus on making sure that we get more of our students spending more of their time at school, so they are doing, guess what, learning more. And that has got to be a good thing. And finally, in terms of the Teaching Council, because we had a lot of that from the opposition as well, if you look at the RIS is quite clear, because it says that at the moment what's happening is that we are not setting our teachers up either for success. And it talks about saying, if I can find, here we go, like this one. If new teachers do not feel confident in their preparedness to teach areas of the curriculum, it is likely that their learners will struggle in these curriculum areas. So what that is saying, and we know that's the case, that we are not setting our teachers up, and I say that I was a teacher 30 odd years ago, but we are not setting our teachers up to succeed either. And that is really, really important that we rectify that. Last couple of things I would say, Lawrence Yunnan, what an impassioned speech that was. In terms of history, and I used to be a history teacher once, we should be teaching every bit of history that we can. Of course, history is such an enormous thing. We should be celebrating history, we should be teaching that, and we should do that, warts and all. There are no perfect races, no perfect groups in history. We should be doing that, warts and all. And then, Dr. Lawrence Yunnan, we should be allowing people, you're quite right, curiosity, love of learning is really, really important. What we should be making sure is that people are able to look at that information and to make up their own minds about what it means, not be told what to think. And that, I think that is much more the fault of governments of the left rather than governments of the right. And the final thing I wanted to say, Mr. Speaker, is in terms of, it seems slightly anomalous to the rest of the bill, but it is an important thing as well, and it's good that we actually bring a lot of things in together. The issue of freedom of speech at universities, quite clearly we've seen quite a number of instances where freedom of speech has been denied, where both staff and students have been unable to say what they would like to say. Freedom of speech is a cornerstone of democracy, and it is really, really important. It is really, really important that universities are required to adopt statements on freedom of expression, and the way in which that is done is set out very, very clearly. I think that will make universities, which should be the place where you have debate, sometimes uncomfortable debate, they should be the place that we have those discussions, and I think that is a good thing as well. So, Mr Speaker, with that, I commend this bill to the House.
The next call is a split call.
Tēnā koe te pika.
I call Debbie Ngāreiwa.
It's an honour to be here standing on behalf of Te Pāti Māori in staunch opposition to this Education and Training Amendment Bill. Shame, absolute shame on the whitewashing and the continual backdropping that we have, backpedalling to the colonial construct that ruined the education, that ruined the whole fact that they're in denial of the equity that we have in education. They're in denial of how Māori children arrive to not fitting into this education system. No, instead, we have a government intent on dragging every Māori child back to where it is that they think normal is. Nō reira, we are absolutely opposed to this bill.
Francisco Hernandez.
Mr. Speaker, and points for the full correct name. I wanted to take the speech to...
We do our best.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Look, I'm rising in opposition to the Education and Training Amendment Bill, whether it's evolution, evolution versus creationism. Now, we do know people are allowed to have opinions, but the difference is evolution is a scientific fact, and universities should be able to proclaim that. But unfortunately, this bill casts doubt to that, which is why we oppose it.
Carl Bates.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To anyone listening at home to this debate this evening, they might have got confused around what is trying to be achieved here. So I want to help just make it pretty clear and pretty simple, because the opposition have tried to confuse everyone about what the role of schooling is about. This bill is focused on ensuring we help get students to school, attendance, and secondly, we focus on educational achievement. And for parents like me across the country, I know that that's what we want. I commend the bill to the House.
Mr. Speaker.
Shannon Halbert.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Education and Training Amendment Bill, number 2, the legislation that nobody asked for. How do you achieve equity without te tiriti o Waitangi? And I'll repeat for ears in this House. How is it that you achieve equity without te tiriti o Waitangi? David Seymour wouldn't know. He wouldn't have any idea. It comes to partnership. It comes to taking care of all tamariki in our school system, and it doesn't come about by taking away the rights, the responsibilities of te tiriti.
Vanessa Winnick.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. One of the key parts of this bill that I think is really worth highlighting is that the foremost obligation of boards of trustees, the priority for them is to concentrate on educational achievement. Now, if everything is important and everything is number one priority, then nothing is really a priority. So we're returning a sense of order to things, and we are making it very clear that this is the number one thing that we care about in education is actually educating our children. They need to turn up, and that is a part of the obligations, and they need to be seen to achieve. So I commend the bill to the House.
The Honourable Jan Tinetti.
When we see how the bill now removes the need for boards of trustees to give effect to Te Reti o Waitangi. Mr. Speaker, that is a disgraceful act and shows little as no regard for our teaching profession in this country. I am disgusted in what is happening here tonight, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker.
Rima Narkley.
Mr. Speaker, the Education and Training Amendment Bill is focused on one thing: lifting achievement. Lifting achievement so that every Kiwi kid can reach their full potential in school, which will equip them with the knowledge and skills they need to take on life and thrive. Thank you. Thank you to our Education Minister for being bold, for being courageous and being game-changing, and for believing in the power of achievement, the power of education to lift our kids from the poverty of aspiration. I commend this bill to the House. Thank you.
The Honourable Filth.
Mr. Speaker, this bill demonstrates so much of what is wrong with this government. It's a grab bag of right-wing bigotry. I worry that this philosophy that is terrified of Māori aspiration, they are trying to ethnically cleanse out of it the idea that sits beneath our founding document, and that is that this country is based on a partnership. This government is content to bring pure right-wing ideology into this House at the expense of educational achievement.
Grant McCallum. Point of order, David Seymour.
I just want to note, there are many New Zealanders who moved here to seek refuge from actual ethnic cleansing, and I think the use of that term was incredibly irresponsible, and really he ought to withdraw it for the reputation of the House.
No, Mr. Seymour, I heard that, and I think probably a little bit of grandstanding on your part. Grant McCallum.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, it's great and privileged to take the last call on this bill. It's a great bill. Listening to the people on the other side of the House, you begin to think, I think they've missed the memo. This bill is very simple. It's about prioritising educational achievement for students and children. And you know what? I think it would do the members on the other side they could do themselves a favour and go and stop talking to all their union mates and talk to parents. You know those people out there that are parents? You know, the ones that want to send their kids to school and let them get ahead in life. This government is focused on getting kids to school, educating children and giving them a great opportunity in life. I commend this bill to the House.
The question is that the motion be agreed to. Those of that opinion will say aye. Aye. To the contrary, no. The ayes have it. Party vote is called for. Please conduct a party vote.
New Zealand National.
49 votes in favour.
New Zealand Labour.
Toru tekau mā whā e whakahe.
Green Party of Aotearoa, New Zealand.
Te kaumarima ngā poti e whakahe.
Act New Zealand.
11 votes in favour.
New Zealand First.
8 votes in favour.
Te Pāti Māori.
E whā ngā poti e whakahe.
Tāku Te Wheres.
Kotahi poti e whakahe.
Maria Mino Kapakingi.
Kotahi poti e whakahe.
The ayes are 68, the noes are 55. The question is agreed.
Education and Training Amendment Bill number 2, third reading.